So acids. So an acid is a material, is a substance or a compound that releases hydrogen ions in solution. So acids will release hydrogen ions. So when we add them to a solution, we get hydrogen ions released. Can anyone think of an example of an acid? So there are at least 2 or 3 acids in your list of compounds that you need to know. Hydrochloric acid is one. Sulfuric acid is another. Sorry? DNA. Yeah, that is a type of acid, but not one that I'm looking for, but thank you. Hydrofluoric acid. Is that on our list? Yes. Yep, okay, great. Nitric acid was the other one that I was actually looking for, HNO3. So you need to be able to write the name and the formula for those acids. And what's one thing that they all have in common? They all have a hydrogen in them, don't they? So that's what makes them an acid, is they've got a hydrogen in them. So when we add these into water, we end up with a hydrogen ion and a chloride ion. Here we'll end up with 2 hydrogen ions and a sulfate ion. Here we'll end up with a hydrogen ion and a fluoride ion. And we'll end up with a hydrogen ion and a nitrate ion. So this is what tells us that it's an acid. All acids will release hydrogen ions when you add them into a solution. So we're going to look at some of the properties of acids. Properties of acids. Acids are corrosive, which means they will melt. Well, melt's not the right word, but they will break down other materials. So if you put a strong acid in metal, the metal will react with the acid and be destroyed, or won't be destroyed, it'll be broken down. They have a sour taste. So vinegar is an acid. There's citric acid in lemons, and lemons have a sour taste. So we should be familiar with some of the acids that have sour tastes. They turn blue litmus paper red. And we're going to look at indicators and litmus papers probably on Wednesday or even on Friday. So they react with metals. And when they react with metals, they form hydrogen gas and a salt. So when I say they form a salt, I'm not talking about that they form sodium chloride. They'll form sodium chloride if they have sodium and chloride in them, but they will form a salt which is an ionic compound. We'll talk more about salts at another stage. So they conduct electricity. Why do you think they conduct electricity? When they're in solution, what do they form? What are these things? So when they're in solution, they form ions. And what did we learn about ionic compounds? We did a practical on ionic compounds. They conduct electricity. Why do they conduct electricity? Because they have charged particles. So in order to conduct electricity, you need to transfer a current using charged particles. And in solution, acids have ions. So they have charged particles, a positive charge and a negative charge. So that's why acids will conduct electricity. They neutralise bases, and we're going to talk about bases in a little while as well. And the way they neutralise bases, when they react with bases, they will form water and a salt. All the reactions that we look at are going to, over the next few weeks, are going to form a salt. Okay, so this is kind of the definition of acids, and they release H+, and these are the properties of our acids. So these acids that we've listed here, we would call strong acids. The reason we would call them strong acids is that they release all of their hydrogen into solution. There are other acids, and ethanoic acid and acetic acid are examples of those, which are weak acids. And weak acids don't release all of their hydrogen ions into the solution. So in a strong acid, they release all of their hydrogen ions, whereas a weak acid, they release some of their hydrogen ions. So what I want you to do is open up your textbook and look at chapter 2.3 and identify some strong acids and some weak acids.